welcome back, and today I am discussing what I think my favourite high-end brand of 2018 is and what I think the top brand of 2018 is. Now, if you don't know, on the 10th of December, the annual Fashion Awards is being held, and I think the main category and one of the biggest categories is Brand of the Year. Now, there are 5 nominees. They are Prada, Burberry, Off-White, Balenciaga and Gucci. So I'll just kind of review each brand and what they've done this year, and then at the end I'll give my conclusion on the brand I think had the best year. So let's get straight into it. The first brand is Balenciaga, which is creatively directed by Demna Gvasalia. They had a really good year last year, and this year they kind of just built up on that really good year last year. They have continued with the chunky silhouette and making it more popular. As you know, obviously Balenciaga wasn't the first brand to make the chunky silhouette popular. There were other brands like Alexander McQueen with the wedge sneakers, and Raf Simons had his Oswegos with Adidas. But I'd say Demna kind of made it mainstream and Balenciaga made it mainstream. And they've kind of just built up upon that. This year they've come with many different colorways, and they're just going to keep rinsing it until it dies out, which is smart commercially. You see Demna, he has Balenciaga 1.0 and the 2.0, so you've got different silhouettes as well as colors. What Demna also does really well is he has managed to keep Balenciaga really relevant, and this is through all the controversy that he's made. So this year he's had the t-shirt shirt, where it was a t-shirt and a t-shirt basically, and he's had like a 7-layer parka jacket. And these controversial topics keep Balenciaga in the forefront and keep people talking about Balenciaga, but at the same time, because people are talking about Balenciaga, people are also looking at all the collections and looking at the other stuff that he does. So this is a really smart way that Demna has managed to keep Balenciaga relevant, and it's just the fact that he understands his market and he understands how to work the younger demographic. I think as a whole, Balenciaga's clothes are really good. They're really underrated because I think Balenciaga is entangled with the whole hypebeast culture and the whole hype fashion, and that takes away from how good the collections, the clothes, the construction really is. So yeah, I'd say Balenciaga is very underrated in the mainstream. And I think Balenciaga has a distinct look, like it's very boxy. When I think of boxy tailoring, I definitely think of Balenciaga. It's the first thing that comes to my mind. Now, the first main Balenciaga collection this year was the Balenciaga FW18 collection. And this was the first time men and women have actually walked together in a Balenciaga show. And this just proves that we are moving more towards inclusivity in fashion, but still have a long way to go. From colourful skin-tight turtlenecks for the men to sleek short dresses and pleated skirts for the women, this collection definitely had a lot of talking points. We saw an appearance of the meme that was the 7-layer parka jacket. Demna has this way of diverting the attention on how good the clothes are to the silliest memes in clothing form. The boxy fit of the dresses and jackets was to be expected and is what we have gotten used to seeing from Demna. I like the shape of the women's jackets, and they kind of accentuate the hips. I really also liked the plaid overcoat, which featured in a variety of silhouettes. It was a solid collection as a whole in my opinion, and let's just say if I was a millionaire, I would have bought my fair share of Balenciaga. I think we can all agree that this era of Balenciaga is a lot better than the Alexander Wang era. The next main Balenciaga collection was the Balenciaga SS19 collection. And the first thing I'll say about this collection is that the set was amazing. This collection was personally one of my favorite Balenciaga collections. The pieces were very simple, yet sleek at the same time, and they had a classy look to them. Now, Balenciaga jackets and tailoring in general have such a nice and distinct boxy look that I really like the superiority of this unique tailoring, and it really shows in his collections. And the shape of the tailoring can effectively give a woman with not much of a figure some more shape. And like in this collection, we saw Demna continue to play with the oversized and elongated trousers on the men and women. We also saw reincarnations of Cristobal Balenciaga's couture in the form of evening dresses. What I really liked about this collection was that it was very wearable and there was no meme clothing to distract us from how good the collection was. Like in the past, like I've said before, when they had the shirt and the 7-layer parka in the FW18 collection. In general, Balenciaga just built upon their dominance from last year, and I look forward to Demna's next moves. So the next brand we are going to talk about is Burberry, and this is, I would say, it's creatively directed by Christopher Bailey and Riccardo Tisci, and the only reason I say that is because the earlier collection of Burberry this year, which was the FW18 collection, was actually Christopher Bailey's last collection with Burberry, so it's still relevant in this year, and then Riccardo Tisci took over. So I'll be reviewing Christopher Bailey and Riccardo Tisci collections for Burberry. So let's just say now it's creatively directed by Riccardo Tisci, but it was by Christopher Bailey earlier in the year. Now, if you didn't know, Riccardo Tisci was at Givenchy before he came to Burberry, and he came to Burberry and he's done quite a few things. The first thing being he kind of revamped and redesigned the Burberry logo and kind of made it more modern looking. And what I will say is I've actually made a video on Christopher Bailey, and I talked about in that video how Christopher Bailey was one of the big time players in terms of taking hold of the branding of Burberry, because the perception of Burberry was kind of being associated with football hooligans, and you see Christopher Bailey kind of recapturing basically what Burberry is about and the luxury of Burberry. And I think Riccardo Tisci is just trying to continue that, where he's trying to change the logo so this new logo won't be in a lot of vintage pieces, so you can clearly tell that if someone's wearing Burberry with the new logo, it must have been an expensive and luxury piece, as opposed to one of the watered down vintage pieces that kind of Christopher Bailey had a problem with when he was at Burberry. Another big issue with Burberry was that they've been called out for using a lot of fur, and I remember at one of the last fashion shows, I think it was the FW18 collection actually, people were protesting against the use of fur and obviously against animal cruelty.
Blood on your hands! 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 Shame on you! Shame on you! Animal music! Shame on you!
And when Riccardo Tisci came in, one of the first things he did was say that his first collection with Burberry will be fur-free. So it's good to see brands going in the right direction. I've seen more and more brands now are saying they're fur-free. A lot of brands are saying are moving more towards sustainable fashion as well. So it's a positive look for fashion as a whole. Another controversial thing with Burberry was that I said this earlier this year in another video as well, how Burberry destroyed about £28 million worth of clothes. And back to this whole rebranding, if their clothes are on the market and aren't sold, then they're going to get into the hands of what they deem as the wrong people, and the prices are going to go cheaper. Then it's not going to be seen as luxury because everyone has it. So that's the main reason why Burberry decided to destroy £28 million of clothing. Now, I think there are many ways to combat this. First of all, they can reduce production, like they don't need to overproduce. Secondly, is there another way you can not have your clothes end up on the market? Like, you don't necessarily have to destroy it. And obviously this has huge sustainability and environmental implications, which is why there were so many protests against it, and I was one of the people saying this is just outrageous. And Riccardo Tisci once again came in and said, with him at the brand, they're going to put a stop to that. We'll see if he keeps to his word. But what I like is Riccardo Tisci has really come in and basically tried to make as many changes, positive changes, as quickly as he can. So yeah. Now, the first big Burberry collection was the Burberry AW18 collection. Now, this was Christopher Bailey's last collection at Burberry, after a 7-year stint at the brand. So many people are really critical about the timing and nature of this collection, as it was inspired by the LGBTQ community. Now, Christopher Bailey is gay, so it was kind of hit home for this to be his last collection. The show started very dark and moody and went from looking like the intro of a horror movie to a set of Alice in the Wonderland in a matter of minutes. This collection was colourful, to say the least. From very long knitted dresses to big scarves and overcoats, this collection had a lot to offer, if you ask me. It was all over the place. As for the LGBTQ inspiration, the colours looked good on the jumpers, but on other pieces, in my opinion, they looked really tacky and distasteful. And to be honest, I didn't really like this collection for many reasons. Now, one of the reasons is this collection was way too random. The second reason being, the collection didn't really have a specific direction, it was just all over the place. And then the third reason is the styling was off, and I think the looks weren't really amazing. The individual pieces were nice, but just the way they were presented through the styling, it just made them look like garbage. And I was really disappointed that Christopher Bailey checked out of Burberry on such a low, in my opinion, after all the good things he had done for Burberry and how he had reclaimed the branding. But I guess it shouldn't take away from all that Christopher Bailey has achieved at Burberry. And as a parting message for this collection, those loafers, I'm a fan. The next big collection for Burberry was Riccardo Tisci's first collection at Burberry, which was a big talking point, as this was around the time a lot of designers were at new houses. You had Virgil Abloh at Louis Vuitton, you had Kim Jones at Dior. So everyone was really interested to see what Riccardo Tisci would do. Now, one of the big talking points, as I said, we saw the redesigned logo and the new check print in the collection. Now, in the collection, a big talking point was the customized British passports that had the year Burberry was founded printed on it and a Burberry logo. Right off the bat, I prefer this collection to the AW18 collection. It followed a direction which was easier to take in all the pieces, which made it easier to take in all the pieces, sorry. It was classic, and we saw a lot of references to the old Burberry. This collection screamed luxury and seemed very mature. At the start, it looked like it was more for the 30-year-old lawyer rather than for the rich kids decked out in off-white, which I think wasn't the case for Christopher's last collection with Burberry. To say this collection was beige would be an understatement. I love the tailoring, especially on the men's pieces. The new look Burberry heels were amazing, and Riccardo used this collection to make some bold statements. The collection, in my opinion, was very balanced, and we saw a debut of the new Burberry print and logo on the pieces, which looked quite good, as I said. And there was something in there for everyone, in my opinion, without leaving the design identity and identity of Burberry. There are street looks for the younger demographic who like the streetwear. There was tailoring, suits, dresses, trench coats, just a big abundance in everything, and also there were really nice accessories. So this collection, in my opinion, was put together perfectly, and between all the fashion designer debuts at new brands this season, I think Riccardo Tisci topped all of them. Oh yeah, and by the way, Riccardo Tisci literally ignored the saying checks over stripes by reimagining the Burberry checks with stripes. Overall, I think Riccardo Tisci recognizes how global Burberry is. So I think his first collection was just very commercial. There's something in there for everyone. It was a solid collection. He made the new Burberry print and Burberry logo, and he's just building a new kind of identity for Burberry while at the same time staying true to what Burberry is. So I'm looking forward to what he does. I think Burberry's heading in the right direction for next year. The next brand is Gucci, and this is creatively directed by Alessandro Michele. I've talked about Gucci in a very recent video, and Gucci seems to be a brand that is plastered all around my Instagram feed, so they must be doing something right, surely. But like I've said in the past, what annoys me about Gucci is when people think and talk about Gucci, they think of all the commercial pieces that everyone wears all on social media and stuff, and that takes away from how amazing the design and aesthetic of Gucci actually is, especially from a maximalism standpoint. So just don't be fooled. Like, Gucci is an amazing brand, the designs are amazing, and Alessandro Michele is a world-class designer. And if people actually watch the fashion shows, they would know this for themselves. Now, this year, Gucci had a little bit of controversy, and it was in the AW18 collection when there was kind of like niqabs and turbans on the runway, and like, I don't like talking about political stuff with fashion. I like to keep fashion, but the thing about, I think people don't understand about cultural appropriation is, okay, with Sikhs, right, they wear turbans, and the thing about when people wear turbans is there are people who literally get beaten up just for wearing turbans. There are people who get stabbed, get killed, get attacked, get robbed because they're wearing turbans. So in my opinion, first of all, the fact that white models are wearing the turbans is disrespectful. Secondly, if you want to take from someone's religion or culture, you have to represent the people that are from that culture. You can't have turbans, niqabs, hijabs, and you're having non-Muslim, non-Sikh white models wear that on the runway. It doesn't make sense, because these people actually go through a struggle in life for that being their identity. Them being a Muslim means wearing a hijab means they go through all sorts of you know, abuse and stuff like that on a daily basis. So the least you can do is at least have them on the runway. Now, the first Gucci show was the Gucci AW18 or FW18 collection, and this show gave me clinical vibes, like, especially with the clone heads held by the models and the hospital-like scenery. The Gucci AW18 collection was all about pushing boundaries. Not that Alessandro doesn't do that every collection anyway. We saw the usual 1970s Gucci suiting and tailoring. We saw oversized sweaters, New York Yankees, and other baseball team logos on pieces, and much more. I would describe it as a beautiful mess. What I found funny was the little Game of Thrones references in the show. In this show, we got to see the Rhython sneakers, which had a lot of mixed reactions, with certain people even saying that the shoes reminded them of the Marvel character Thanos. I must say this collection was quite commercial compared to past collections, and that's a big statement considering most Gucci collections are commercial anyway. But as a whole, it was a very solid collection, and a lot of the pieces were very wearable. The next collection was the Gucci Resort collection, and the first thing I will say about this is most brands, because the main seasons are the FW and SS collections, their resort collections are just like an extra collection for commercial reasons, so they can sell more clothes, blah blah blah. And yeah, most brands, their resort collections are absolutely horrific. So Gucci is actually one of the very few brands that I can personally say has very good resort collections. But before I even start reviewing this collection, like, we have to take time out to literally talk about how amazing the ambiance of the show was. The show was literally on fire. Like, the models were literally walking beside burning fire. As is usually the case with resort collections, the pieces were very wearable. In this collection, we saw chunky sunglasses, double-toned sunglasses, huge tote bags, nice dresses, chunky rubber sandals, amazing tailored blazers, and much more. As usual, Gucci provided an aesthetically pleasing mess that only the king of maximalism, Alessandro himself, knows how to do. Alessandro said his inspiration for this show is widows attending grave sites, kids playing rock and roll stars, and ladies who aren't ladies. Take from this statement as you please. The best way to look at it, and to look at each look on the model, is to look at the models as characters rather than as outfits put on models. I think that's how the fashion show was curated, and that's kind of like the vision Alessandro had for this collection. In total though, this was a solid and captivating show, to say the least. The next show was the Gucci SS19 collection. Now, the SS19 collection was hands down one of my favorite collections of every single brand of this year. And one of the reasons was me being a minimalist. This collection had a minimalistic touch to Gucci's usual maximalism, which I loved. The tailoring was simple yet classy. The shapes were nice, and as usual, the pieces came in an array of different colors, which Gucci has been known to do. Also, this was very different to a lot of collections I've seen before from Alessandro. And this just once again shows how versatile Alessandro is, how underrated his designs are. And in the FW18 collection, we saw models carrying replica heads of themselves. But in this collection, we kind of saw a bit of a twist. The models were seen carrying Mickey Mouse heads. Like, what is Alessandro's obsession with heads? Can someone actually tell me? Overall this year, Gucci had some of the best collections. They had really solid collections. Their collections were very consistent. The collections had a certain direction. And just once again, just shows Alessandro's underrated. And unfortunately, it's because of this whole hypebeast culture and how all the rappers are just talking about Gucci. You even got this song Gucci Gang. Everyone's just talking about Gucci, but not from a design standpoint. It's more of a gimmicky standpoint, which takes away from how good Alessandro is. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Gucci. Now, the next brand is Off-White, which is creatively directed by Virgil Abloh. Off-White, where do I start? I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with Off-White. I like the Nike collab. I liked it when it first started. The 10 I thought was very creative. A lot of people say, oh, it's not really that creative, but well, you didn't think of that idea. So the deconstruction, the Nike pieces, and the reconstruction, just the idea, I really liked it. I thought it was quite creative. I really liked it in general. I think now it's overplayed. They're releasing too many colorways. It's at this point, it's just too much. Like, just Virgil, just stop. Like, release one a year. The hype would be bigger. I know all you care about is hype. Like, so. But I mean, outside the Nike collab, can't really say too many positive things about Off-White, to be honest. I mean, it just seems like if Virgil Abloh is not copying a huge, well-established fashion house, then he's copying some relatively unknown up-and-coming designer, and of course he won't credit them. It's just what Virgil Abloh does. He's been doing it over the years. It's starting to get tiring. So yeah, in my opinion, man, Virgil Abloh is the literal definition of fake it till you make it. However, I didn't make this video to just bash Virgil Abloh. He does quite a few things well. He's a good businessman. I think what I can commend him on is the fact that he knows his consumer market and he knows how to market to his customers. And I think that's an invaluable tool. And when we talk about finances, he has financial value. Regardless of how bad Off-White is from a design perspective, it sells at the end of the day. And I think that's why you saw him land the job with Louis Vuitton. Not because he's a good designer, but he understands how the market works. He understands when it comes down to it, he knows how to get the big numbers in terms of money. And that's an invaluable skill. At the end of the day, there's no point being an exceptional designer if no one will buy your clothes, because if no one buys your clothes, then how can you even run a brand? So I think that's the side I'll commend Virgil Abloh on. With Off-White, I'll only talk about the FW18 and SS19 collections for men and women. The only reason is because commercial Virgil cares about money too much. Like I said, he's an amazing businessman. He has all sorts of pre-collections and it's too many, and so I don't want to be depressed reviewing all of them. So yeah. Alright, now the first Off-White collection I'll talk about is the Off-White FW18 menswear collection. Now this show was very red. This collection continued the stale concept that Virgil Abloh calls business casual. I don't really like talking about Off-White too much, so let's just say this collection was glorified Zara. The next Off-White collection I'll talk about is the FW18 ready-to-wear women's wear collection. Now, Off-White women's wear is like a million times better than Off-White menswear. So I actually have a few good things to say about this collection, and the same as is never the case for Off-White menswear. This collection was very wearable and I loved some of the silhouettes. If I was a woman, I would wear like quite a lot of the looks. However, a lot of the pieces didn't even fit on the models. The fashion show seemed so rushed. How can Virgil Abloh want to be respected in the high-end stratosphere and not have things that fit right on models in his Paris Fashion Week debut? In this collection, we also got a mandatory Off-White knockoff. So in this edition of What Did Virgil Abloh Copy, Virgil Abloh decided to steal a misbehaved design for his collection. Lastly, I'll talk about the SS19 menswear collection. Now, when you unpack this collection, it's really just a bunch of tracksuits, jeans, and t-shirts. Nothing more, and on that note, I'm done reviewing Off-White because like it's terrible. The SS19 women's wear collection I have already reviewed, so be sure to check that video out if you want to hear me bash Off-White anymore. In conclusion, his collections this year were just horrific, especially the SS19 menswear collection. It was so bad. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about Off-White, to be honest. It's sad because now that he works at Louis Vuitton, his attention will be divided even more. So does that mean the collections will get worse? I don't know, man. Now, last but not least, we're going to talk about Prada, which is creatively directed by Miuccia Prada, who has been at the helm of Prada for over 40 years. Now, to say Prada had a huge year, big understatement. Prada literally made bucket hats mainstream. Prada had the best accessories this year, in my opinion. Also, they made nylon popular as a material again. Nylon is something that Prada has been doing for a really long time. And what I really love about Prada is it's like one of those few brands that has a distinct design aesthetic and brand aesthetic and direction. And obviously this is mainly because Miuccia Prada has been at the helm for so long. So it's only been under one designer's vision for so long, other than these other brands where they have a designer for 5 years and another designer comes in 5 years and the brand direction just keeps changing. So most people you see that really like Prada always just stay with Prada because it's not really going to change too much. I really like one of the silhouettes that Prada's been doing, the Cloudburst sneakers. Also, I'll just say that Prada clothes, to me, they're like really chic, mature, you know, but the only criticism I have with this is that I don't think that Miuccia Prada really speaks to millennials, and that's because I think she's a bit older than millennials in a younger demographic and doesn't understand how the market works. And I think that's why you see people don't really buy Prada that much anymore. The sales have been going down, apart from recent times, obviously. So yeah, and it just really pissed me off because at the end of the day, Prada is one of the most copied brands, and it's like everyone's copying them and making money, but Prada, the brand that's been copied itself, isn't making money because Prada, I think they have the design down. That, and when we talk from a design perspective and point, they have some of the best designs out there, but because Miuccia Prada, I think, doesn't understand the market, other brands just copy Prada, they understand the market, so millennials see that stuff before they see Prada and will buy that stuff. So yeah, that's the only criticism I have for Prada, but now I'm going to review the shows. The first Prada collection I'm going to talk about is the FW18 menswear collection. Now, this collection really impressed me. It was elegant, it was chic, it was functional, And oh, I must say the footwear was a straight 10 out of 10. Now the accessories, as usual, in this collection were nice, and the modern Prada logo was kind of like a futuristic logo. That was refreshing to see. This collection was almost like, you know, those anniversary collections when a brand brings back their best pieces and puts them all in one collection. That's kind of what this seemed like. The criticism I have for this collection is that it just seemed really safe and commercial. The minimalist in me loves the simple classiness of Prada pieces in this collection. And I recognize Prada is all about attention to detail on the fabrics and materials used. However, I just fear that the clothes are easy to copy, which has been the issue I've had with Prada for so many years. I think this collection won't really resonate with the younger demographic because Prada is too mature for them to understand. And I'm just not completely sure millennials understand Miuccia Prada at this point. But I really loved the collection as a whole. Something I really loved was the unapologetic reintroduction of nylon into the recent collections. Next, there was the FW18 ready-to-wear women's wear collection. This was another solid collection. Personally, I really loved it, but I feel like this collection, once again, it's too intellectual for a younger demographic. Miuccia Prada is one of the most intelligent and fashion-forward designers, but I think if she wants to appeal to the millennials and the younger demographic of today, I think she needs to tone down the complexity of the designs, or I feel like in the mainstream her clothes won't be understood. And this is why instead people opt for more trendy brands like Off-White and Louis Vuitton. Just guess what I'm trying to say is Prada is just very old-fashioned. And with the awful fashion that has been releasing in the present day, I think now more than ever it's refreshing to see old school brands that have stuck to their brand identity for so long. Nylon was historically a material that was used to package clothing by high-end brands around the 1980s, and Miuccia Prada's twist on this was to use nylon in 1984 to make a collection of bags, purses and backpacks in black. And in future collections, she then eventually used nylon for jackets, tops, and other pieces. So this is why the Prada collections this year have been so nostalgic to long-time Prada fans like me. I love the flame heels in the collection. I love the heels in general, and there are just some really interesting shapes with some of the heels in this collection. And the futuristic logo, like I've said, I'm all for that. A lot of brands like Saint Laurent Paris and the new look Celine under Adi Slimane, they require you to have a kind of model body type for the pieces to fit properly, whereas Prada can be worn by many different body types in my opinion. Now for the Prada 2019 Resort collection, as far as this collection goes, take from it what you will. It wasn't amazing, but then again, it was a resort collection. As we know, the main collections are the fall, winter and the spring, summer collections. Most of the other collections are just forced for commercial reasons. It only seems like Gucci consistently has interesting resort collections, so yeah, that's all I'll say about that collection. The next collection actually I'll talk about is the SS19 menswear collection. Now, this collection in my opinion was top notch. We saw a huge level of masculinity through this collection, from nicely cut blazers in various colors, to washed jeans, to extra short shorts. And Miuccia Prada described these extra short shorts as mini skirts for men, which I thought was quite funny. And there was just a wide array of pieces in this collection. I really liked the boat shoes and the loafers. Also, I liked the knits, and I liked how pieces were styled specifically on the runway. To me, Prada it will always be stylish, chic and fashionable without trying too hard like a lot of other brands. Miuccia Prada even said herself that she wants to make her clothes more simple because everyone else is going too far and trying too hard. Now, the last Prada collection I'll talk about is the SS19 women's wear ready-to-wear collection. Now, with this collection, Miuccia just came back all guns blazing. This collection was great, but it was also slightly all over the place. There are definitely some good pieces. It was like finding gold in a haystack. So they're definitely good pieces, you just have to find them. A lot of the looks had these double-breasted jackets that I really liked. Some patterns on the jackets were really nice. I loved the cashmere sweaters, and of course all the accessories. This collection was just one of those collections where Mucha just says, I'm here, I'm the best designer right now, I'm not going anywhere. There was a piece actually that it had tie-dye with embroidery, and I just thought the complexity and attention to detail in the pieces really get overlooked when we talk about Prada. And this is why I say that in terms of design, I think Prada is really, really up there, but other brands, they kind of understand the consumers and the consumer market more, so what they do is just copy Prada, and because they understand the market, they end up selling more than Prada because they can kind of like advertise and promote. They know how to promote their collections more, even though they're copying Prada. And because most people don't know who copies who anyway, so they're just gonna buy what they think is the it thing. In conclusion, that was just really solid collections from Mucha Prada. If you ask me what my opinion is, Prada had a really solid year. I think they had a crazy comeback this year compared to last year when not too many people were talking about Prada. I'm a long-term fan of Prada, and I'm a big fan of Mucha Prada's designs and her design aesthetic, and I'll always be a fan of Prada, whether it's trendy or not. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Prada this year. Now, for the brand I think is the brand of the year, drum roll. My top brand of the year is Prada, and mainly because they just bossed the year. I'm sorry, they bossed the year. They drove a lot of trends like the Hawaiian shirts, the bucket hats. It was really close between Prada and Gucci. I think those were the top two this year. Yeah, I feel like Balenciaga was just Balenciaga. Off-White was terrible as usual. Burberry had some solid collections, but there was nothing spectacular, like nothing blew my mind. So yeah, that's just my thought, to be honest. I don't know why Off-White even made this cut. Maybe because Off-White is what everyone talks about, what millennials talk about. So they kind of just slotted in Off-White so that millennials would watch the fashion awards, and it would kind of increase their ratings and numbers. I don't know how these things work, but I would have rather put Valentino, who had some really solid collections this year, in place of Off-White. Yeah, that's my thought. What do you guys think about the video? What do you think about the best brand out of those 5? What brand do you think will actually win the award? In my opinion, I think Prada is the best this year, but in terms of the award, I think it'll either be Gucci or Prada that wins that award. And if one of those two don't win the award, then the people that make the fashion awards, I don't even know what to say about that. But yeah, thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel. I make fashion content. Like this video. Follow me on Instagram at Fashion Roadman. On my Instagram, I actually do talk about controversial stuff like on my story. So if you just want some more fashion engagement, then be sure to follow me on Instagram. And stay tuned for more. And I'm out.